Part 1. The truth that sets you free. There's a moment that eventually comes for all of us. Sometimes it sneaks up slowly. Other times it hits like a brick wall, and it sounds something like this. Nobody really cares. Not about your excuses, not about your pain, not even about your so-called potential. At first it feels harsh, cold, almost cruel. You sit with it and think, is this how the world really works? And the answer is, yeah, it kind of is. But here's the thing, they never told you what happens after that realization. Because if you can sit with this truth long enough, if you can let it wash over you instead of fighting it, something incredible happens. You stop waiting for people to care. You stop living for approval. And for the first time, you start owning your life. You start showing up for you. Not for applause, not for validation, not because someone's watching, but because deep down you know this is who I'm meant to become. You stop explaining your dreams to people who don't get it. You stop needing others to understand your journey. You just begin, quietly, consistently. That's when the shift happens. You stop trying to be seen, and you start seeing yourself. That kind of power, it doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It's silent, it's slow, and it's absolutely unstoppable. That's what the Stoics were about, not building fame or chasing praise, but mastering yourself in a world that wants you chasing everything else. So, if you've ever felt like your effort isn't noticed, like no one sees the weight you carry, or that your thoughts go unheard, good. That means you're in the right place. That means it's time to stop outsourcing your worth. It's time to build something that stands even if nobody ever claps for it. This isn't about being cold. It's about being free. Because the moment you stop needing the world to care is the moment you start focusing on what really matters. Your discipline, your direction, your character. That's where real peace begins, not in being celebrated, but in becoming someone solid, someone proud, someone grounded. So today we're going deep. 12 Stoic lessons, not for show, not for the crowd, but for you, for the version of you that wants to live without apology. Let's start with the first one. 1. Your worth doesn't depend on applause. Let me ask you something. Would you still do what you're doing if no one ever clapped, if no one ever noticed? It's a confronting question, but one that cuts through all the noise. Because here's the truth, most of us are performing. We're performing for likes, for approval, for recognition. But applause, it's fragile. It fades. It shifts. It depends on moods, opinions, distractions. If your self-worth is tied to that, if who you are depends on the next compliment or comment, then your identity is always up for negotiation. Stoicism calls that out. It teaches us your worth isn't in what they think of you. It's in how you show up when nobody's looking. Are you honest even when it's hard? Disciplined even when no one's watching? Do you choose integrity over what's convenient? That's real worth, not the kind that comes from being the loudest or the most liked, but the kind that shows up daily in the dark when nobody's paying attention. Think of the sun. It doesn't ask to be seen. It just rises. Quiet, steady, powerful, and somehow it lights the entire world. That's the kind of energy you want to bring. Not loud, not needy, just real. When your life aligns with who you are, not who they expect you to be, you stop needing applause. You start building a life on your own terms. So next time you feel invisible, here's your question. Am I proud of how I showed up today? If yes, that's your applause. That's your win. Because the world can take many things, but it can't take away the dignity of a life lived in alignment. And that's the kind of worth no audience can validate and no critic can destroy. Part 2. External validation is a trap. Let's talk about something we're all guilty of at some point, caring too much about what other people think. Why do we do it? It starts early, when a parent smiles at us for doing something good, or a teacher gives us a gold star, or someone likes our post on social media. Those little moments, they wire us. They give us a hit of approval, a sense of being valued, and slowly, almost without realizing it, we shift. We stop asking ourselves, is this right for me? And start wondering, will they like this? And before we know it, we're not living, we're performing. Performing in relationships, performing at work, performing in front of the entire world like actors in a play we never auditioned for. We forget who we were before the applause. Stoicism pulls us out of that illusion. It says, clearly external validation is slavery in disguise. Harsh, maybe, but true. Epictetus put it bluntly, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, because growth, it's not always pretty, it's awkward, it's messy, it doesn't always earn praise. In fact, it often invites criticism. But if you're constantly chasing approval, you'll never risk that discomfort. You'll play it safe. You'll stay small. You'll be liked, but lost. There's something heartbreaking about needing permission to be yourself, about hesitating before each move, waiting to see if someone will approve. Let me tell you, these people are unpredictable, fickle. They'll praise you one day and mock you the next for the exact same thing. If you tie your worth to that roller coaster, you'll never feel steady. But when you detach, when you stop needing to be seen, you become solid. Because now your sense of worth isn't rented from the crowd, it's owned by you. Take a look around. How many people are living lives that aren't really theirs? Choosing careers to impress their parents. Posting things not to express, but to impress. Staying quiet in rooms where their voice matters, just to avoid judgment. That's the cost of external validation. It chips away at your authenticity, one compromise at a time. And worst of all, it teaches you to hide. Hide your truth. Hide your thoughts. Hide your light so others feel comfortable. But freedom, that begins the moment you stop needing to be noticed. It begins when you finally say, this is my path, whether you clap or not. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. It's knowing who you are and walking in that loudly or silently, but never apologetically. Let me ask you something. If everyone stopped noticing your effort tomorrow, would you still show up? Would you still write that book? Record that podcast? Start that business? Stand by that value? If the answer is no, then your motivation was never yours to begin with. It was rented from the audience. But if the answer is yes, then congratulations. You found something rare. You found a source of strength no one can take. You're not performing anymore. You're living. So let go not of connection, but of dependency. Give yourself permission to be misunderstood, to walk alone sometimes, to be your full self without needing to explain every part of it. Because the moment you no longer need validation to live your truth, that's the moment you finally begin to live. 2, focus on what you can control. Let's get honest. How much of your stress, your anxiety, your frustration comes from things you can't control? The traffic, the economy, the way someone speaks to you, the timing of an opportunity, the opinions people form about you. We spend so much time, so much mental energy trying to force life to bend to our expectations. Like, if we just worry hard enough, maybe things will go our way. But it doesn't work. It never does. And Stoicism calls this out brutally and beautifully. Epictetus said it clearly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. And wisdom begins the moment we stop fighting the things that are out of our hands. So, what is in your hands? Your mindset, your reactions, your decisions, your effort, your integrity. That's your domain. Everything else, that's noise. And this doesn't mean you stop caring about others or give up on planning for the future. It just means you stop suffering over things you were never meant to carry. You stop demanding that life follow your script, and instead, you write your response no matter what shows up. Let's take an example. Two people go through the same breakup. One spirals, blaming, obsessing, breaking down. The other breathes, sits with the pain, and asks, "What can I learn from this? What can I do today to heal?" That difference, that's where power lives. Not in control over the situation, but in mastery over yourself. You can't control whether someone stays. You can't control if they love you the way you want. You can't control whether they see your worth. But you can control whether you stay rooted in your dignity. You can choose not to chase. You can choose stillness. You can choose peace. Even with your boss, maybe they're in a bad mood. That's not yours. What is yours is how you show up anyway, with calm, with clarity, with grace. And the beautiful thing, the more you focus on what you can control, the more power you begin to feel not over others, but over your own life. You become less reactive, less bitter, less chaotic, because you're no longer fighting reality. You're working with it. That's what the Stoics meant when they said, live according to nature. It means accepting what is and bringing your best to it. So right now, ask yourself, what am I trying to control that was never mine to hold? And more importantly, what is in my control today? What one small thing can I do with focus, integrity, and presence? That's where real peace starts. Not in changing the world, but in becoming someone unshakable within it. Part 3. Live for your inner standards, not the crowd. Here's a question we all run into, eventually. What do you do when the crowd cheers for something you don't believe in? What happens when everyone is going left and your gut is pulling you right? This isn't some rare philosophical dilemma. It's daily life. It's what happens in office politics, on social media, in your friend group, even at home. The truth is, society changes its mind all the time. What's cool today gets canceled tomorrow. What's celebrated this year could be mocked next year. And if your values depend on what's approved by the world, you'll be constantly shifting, constantly guessing, constantly anxious. That's not stability. That's exhaustion. The Stoics knew this. They said, real peace, real power comes not from obeying the crowd, but from obeying your inner code. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, philosopher, king, put it this way: the approval of the crowd is a weak and unstable foundation. Why? Because the crowd doesn't know you. They don't know your journey. They don't see your private battles or personal values. They just reward what's loud, what's familiar, what's easy to digest. But your life, It's not supposed to be easy to digest. It's supposed to be authentic. So think of your values like a compass. They don't move just because the weather changes. They always point north. Even if you're walking through storms, even if no one else is following, that's how you walk with peace. Not because everyone agrees with you, but because you're finally aligned with you. Let's make this real. You're at a job where cutting corners gets rewarded. Everyone's doing it. You're told, don't overthink it. Just go with the flow. Do you play along, or do you hold your line even if it costs you popularity? Or maybe your friends start mocking someone to bond over laughs. It's a joke, right? No big deal. Do you stay silent or speak up, even if it creates awkward tension? These moments may look small on the outside, but inside they shape your soul. They carve your character. They whisper to your conscience, this is who you really are. Because living by your inner standards doesn't always mean making a scene. It means becoming someone who doesn't have to perform. You walk into a room and you don't shrink. You don't chase attention. You don't fake your smile. You just are clear, grounded, steady. And yes, sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes people won't understand. Sometimes they'll mock your silence, your kindness, your boundaries. But here's the deal. That's the price of authenticity. And it's worth it. Because what's the alternative? Living a life designed to impress others while betraying yourself. That's not peace. That's quiet torment. So ask yourself, if no one ever approved of my life, would I still be proud of it? If your only judge was your own conscience, would you feel aligned? Those answers matter more than any round of applause ever will. Because at the end of the day, when your head hits the pillow, it's not the crowd's voice echoing in your mind. It's yours. 4. Praise and criticism are just noise. Here's a big idea, and it might take a second to absorb. Praise and criticism, they're the same, at least from a Stoic point of view. Sounds strange, right? After all, praise feels great. It's a rush. It's confirmation that you're doing something right. And criticism, that stings. It makes your chest tighten. You want to explain yourself, defend yourself, fix everything. But here's the Stoic perspective. Both praise and criticism come from the outside. And if your mood rises or falls based on what they say, then you're not in control. They are. Let's take a moment to sit with that. If someone insults you and it ruins your whole day, who's got the power? If someone compliments you and suddenly you feel amazing, who's still in charge of your emotional world? It's not you. That's why the Stoics aimed for something deeper than emotional highs and lows, not coldness, not arrogance, just steady power. Epictetus warned us, if you are tempted to seek outside approval, you have compromised your own integrity. Because every time you let someone else's words shape your worth, you lose a little more of yourself. And here's what happens. You start needing that approval to feel okay. You start avoiding risks just in case someone criticizes you. You soften your truth, change your tone, shrink your boundaries, all to avoid that sting. Before long, you don't even know what you believe anymore. You only know what keeps you safe. But let's flip it. Imagine this. You pour your heart into something, a project, a conversation, a risk. One person praises it. You feel unstoppable. Another person criticizes it. You want to quit. Did the work change? Nope. Only the feedback. And if that feedback has the power to define how you feel, you're still living from the outside in. The Stoic lives from the inside out. This doesn't mean you ignore feedback. You listen to it, you learn from it, but you don't worship it. You ask, does this align with my values? If yes, cool, take it. If not, let it go. Because even praise can become a prison if you need it too much. You'll start tailoring everything for applause. You'll start becoming someone you're not just to keep the good feelings coming. And eventually that applause starts to feel like a leash. The Stoic, they're free. They receive praise with humility, criticism with grace. But neither defines their path. They don't need the room to cheer because they already know who they are when the room is silent. So here's your question. Would you still make this decision, take this action, live this true, if no one ever praised it? And if someone did criticize you harshly, would your confidence shatter? Or would it bend and hold firm? When praise and criticism stop being emotional earthquakes, when they just become data, you've found something rare. You've found peace. You've found power. You've found yourself. Part 4. Your value is self-created. Let's break a myth that quietly runs so many people's lives. Your value doesn't come from the outside, not from your title, not your status, not from how good you look in a selfie or how many people clicked like. But most people never stop to ask where their sense of worth really comes from. They just assume it's something earned through money, fame, relationships, or recognition. The Stoics thought differently. They believed that your value isn't something you chase. It's something you create. You forge it through your discipline. You shape it through your choices. You reinforce it through your consistency and how you respond when life doesn't go your way. We live in a world that's constantly measuring us. Likes, comments, promotions, followers' test scores. Algorithms try to define our worth in numbers. But real value, the kind that can't be taken away, doesn't live in metrics. It lives in how you carry yourself when no one's watching. It lives in how you treat people who can't help you. It lives in whether you respect the person staring back at you in the mirror. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And in wasting it, we delay becoming who we were meant to be." You build your value every single day, brick by invisible brick, not with grand gestures, but in the small decisions. Waking up early when sleeping in is tempting. Holding your tongue when you want to snap. Telling the truth when lying would protect your image. These are the quiet acts that make you powerful. Now, let's get practical. Picture someone who makes their bed, shows up when they said they would, reads, reflects, grows, exercises not for looks, but for discipline, thinks before they speak, keeps their promises, even to themselves. That person, they may not have the flashiest title. They may not make headlines, but they own the room when they walk in. Why? Because they don't need to prove anything. Their presence speaks for them. They've earned their own respect. That's the kind of value no one can take. On the flip side, someone who constantly seeks value from the outside. They're vulnerable. One rejection breaks them. One failed attempt shatters their image. They're always trying to be seen instead of becoming whole. And that's not living. That's performing. This is where Stoicism stops being a theory and becomes a practice. When you stop outsourcing your value, you stop begging for attention. You start setting higher standards, not to show off, but to stay aligned. You walk away from toxic energy not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. You stop arguing with people who don't even deserve an explanation. You begin to guard your time, your focus, your energy. Because now you know you're valuable, not because they said so, but because you built it. So the next time you doubt yourself, don't look outward. Don't ask the crowd if you matter. Ask you, am I showing up in a way that I admire? Am I becoming the person I promised myself I would? If the answer is yes, your value is intact whether anyone sees it or not. And if the answer is no, that's good news too, because it means the power to change is still in your hands. Your worth isn't something to discover, it's something you build through effort, through discipline, through self-respect. 5. Inner courage is quiet but unshakable. What comes to mind when you hear the word courage? Most people picture something loud. Someone on a stage standing tall. Someone risking everything. A big cinematic moment. But here's the truth. Most courage is quiet. It's not trending. It's not applauded. It doesn't come with a soundtrack. It happens in silence. It's when you speak up even though your voice shakes. It's when you set a boundary that no one else understands. It's when you stay true to your values when everyone else folds. That's real courage. And in the Stoic tradition, it's one of the highest forms of strength. See, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in alignment with your values despite fear. Epictetus once said, "You may fetter my leg, but my will not even Zeus himself can overpower." That's what Stoic courage looks like. The world can take your comfort. It can take your reputation, even your relationships. But if you guard your will, your purpose, your clarity, your inner compass, then you've lost nothing essential. Think about what it takes to leave something familiar because it no longer aligns. To sit in discomfort instead of numbing it. To try again after failing. Not because you feel ready, but because you're committed. These moments may seem small, but they're battles. And when you win them, you change. Not loudly, not for show, but for real. Some of the most courageous people you'll ever meet don't look brave. They're just consistent. They're grieving, but still show up. They're anxious, but still speak truth. They're afraid, but still take the next step. That's courage. The mistake we make is thinking we need to feel strong to act strong, that we should wait for confidence before moving. But Stoicism flips that. Courage isn't something you wait for, it's something you choose. It's doing the right thing even when you're unsure. It's showing up before you feel ready, over and over, until that courage becomes your identity. Part 5. Build an inner citadel. Let me ask you something important. Where do you go when life falls apart? When people turn their back on you? When plans unravel? When everything outside of you feels like chaos? Where do you retreat? Most people wait until a crisis to start thinking about resilience. But by then, it's too late. You don't want to be building your shelter during the storm. You want to build it before it comes. And the Stoics had a name for that shelter. The inner citadel. Not a castle, not a physical fortress, but a mental stronghold. A place inside you that no crisis can touch. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who lived through wars, betrayal plagues, wrote about this often in his journal. People seek retreats in the country by the sea and the mountains, but you can retreat into yourself any time. He wasn't talking about escaping. He was talking about building a place inside your mind, a place of peace, of clarity, of order that stands even when the world doesn't. In today's world, with distractions, noise, and constant judgment, that kind of inner strength is not a luxury. It's a necessity. So what does it look like to build your inner citadel? It means training your mind to stay calm when your emotions want to explode, holding your ground when life disappoints you, knowing your values so clearly that nothing outside you can shake them. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens through practice. Every time you pause before reacting, you're laying a brick. Every time you journal instead of scrolling, another brick. Every time you choose principle over ego, another brick. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. But brick by brick, you become something unshakable. Let's bring this into real life. Say someone insults you publicly. Do you react out of ego? Do you fire back just to save face? Or do you pause, breathe, and respond with intention? That pause, that's your inner citadel in action. Or picture this. You lose something important, a job, a relationship, a dream. Do you fall apart? Or do you remember my value never came from those things in the first place? That mindset is your inner citadel. And like any fortress, it must be built daily. Every act of self-respect strengthens it. Every difficult truth you face deepens its foundation. But don't confuse this with coldness. The inner citadel doesn't mean shutting down your emotions. It means not being ruled by them. It's not emotional numbness. It's emotional mastery. It's what lets you love deeply without clinging, lead boldly without arrogance, lose gracefully without crumbling. And here's the part nobody else can do for you. You have to build it yourself. Not a book, not a mentor, not even a philosophy. It has to be lived through quiet consistency, through private effort, through choosing the harder path, not once, but over and over again. So ask yourself today, what does my inner citadel look like? Is it strong, or is it just an idea? Do you retreat into it when storms come? Or do you even know where it is? Because storms will come. That's guaranteed. But whether you get destroyed by them or refined by them, that depends on what you've built inside. And when you've truly built it brick by brick over time, you'll discover something most people never do. No matter what happens out there, you are already home. 6. Daily reflection is power. Let's talk about a lost art in today's world. Sitting with yourself. No noise, no distractions, no scrolling. Just you replaying the day. Not to obsess, not to self-criticize, but to reflect, to observe, to learn. In modern life, everything is about momentum, do more, fix more, achieve more. But the Stoics slowed down. Seneca once said, "Each day I examine my conscience. I look back over my words and actions and reread the whole day." He wasn't doing it to be dramatic. He was doing it to grow, to understand himself, to evolve day by day. Because here's the truth. What you don't observe, you repeat. And what you don't understand controls you. Daily reflection is how you break the loop. It humbles you, but doesn't humiliate you. It challenges you, but doesn't condemn you. It holds you accountable, but with compassion. It's not about guilt. It's about responsibility. Imagine this. You end your day with 5 quiet minutes. No phone, no Netflix, just you. You think, where did I act from? Fear to die. When did I speak from ego? Where did I show strength I hadn't seen in myself before? You catch a pattern. You notice a reaction. You celebrate a win you almost ignored. That's not a ritual. That's recalibration. And slowly you move from reactive to aware. You stop getting blindsided by your emotions. You start recognizing your triggers. You become conscious. Over time, that awareness becomes identity. You're no longer trying to live with integrity. You are a person of integrity, not because you're perfect, but because you're honest with yourself. And here's something most people never experience peace at night. When you've reflected deeply, you sleep differently. Your mind isn't spinning. Your heart isn't tangled in regret. You've already looked the day in the eye and either made peace with it or made a plan to do better tomorrow. That's rare. That's powerful. So here's the challenge. Tonight, before the day ends, ask yourself, what did I learn about myself today? If the answer is nothing, it's not because nothing happened. It's because you weren't present enough to notice. And that's okay, because tomorrow is another chance. Reflection isn't some spiritual luxury. It's a survival tool in a distracted world. Growth, real lasting personal growth requires stillness. It requires honesty. And above all, it requires Part 6. Vulnerability is a strength when you own it. Here's a twist most people don't see coming. The thing you're hiding might be your greatest strength. Most of us were taught to wear emotional armor. Be composed, be unshaken, be successful, be fine. We were told don't cry in front of others. Don't show weakness. Don't let them see you struggle. And so we learned to fake it. We learned to perform. We smiled through pain. We buried doubt under forced confidence. We tried to look strong even when we were falling apart. But deep down, we all know, pretending isn't strength. It's fear, it's avoidance, it's emotional suffocation. The Stoics didn't teach us to deny our emotions. They taught us to face them, to master them, not run from them. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." But bravery doesn't mean being fearless. It means being honest in the face of fear. That's what vulnerability really is. Not oversharing, not seeking pity, but standing in your truth even when it's messy. Let me paint the picture. You're overwhelmed, anxious, confused. The old you, you'd hide it. Pretend it's all good. Push through. But the Stoic in you pause, you name it. To yourself first, maybe to someone you trust. You say, I'm not okay right now. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm trying. This hurts, but I'm facing it, and something changes. That shame, it starts to shrink. That pressure, it lightens. That fear, it gets a name. Because now, you're owning it. You're no longer wasting energy keeping up an image. You're investing energy in becoming real. That's what maturity looks like. Children hide, adults face. Children deny, adults integrate. Vulnerability doesn't mean crying on every call. It means being real with yourself first, then with the people who've earned that access. And the paradox, the more you own your vulnerability, the less vulnerable you become. Because now it's not controlling you. You've seen it. You've felt it. You've made peace with it. And from that place, you lead better. You connect deeper. You live freer. Let's make this real. You made a mistake. Maybe at work. maybe in a relationship, maybe in the middle of an emotional storm. The easy route? Deny it. Blame someone. Brush it off. But the strong route, the Stoic route, is simple. That was on me. No drama, no self-hate, just clarity. That moment it earns respect, not just from others, but from yourself. Because people don't bond over perfection. They bond over truth. And the leaders, the creators, the friends who make the biggest impact, they're not the ones who pretend to be invincible. They're the ones who say, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm here. I'm honest. I'm growing. That's strength. That's leadership. That's stoicism with heart. So ask yourself, what am I hiding from myself? Or what truth do I need to speak not to the world, but to me? Because performing is exhausting, but being real, being grounded, being whole, that's where freedom lives. And it begins the moment you stop running from your truth and start walking with it. 7. Resilience means using pain as fuel. Here's one of the hardest truths you'll ever learn. Your pain is not the enemy. In fact, it might be your greatest teacher. Pain changes us, but how it changes us, that's up to you. Some let it break them, others let it define them. But the Stoic, they use it, not just to survive, but to become. That's what resilience really is. Not toughness for the sake of toughness, not acting fine when you're not, but becoming someone wiser, clearer, and more solid because of what you've been through. Marcus Aurelius said it best, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. It's more than a quote. It's a challenge. What if every obstacle in your life was trying to shape you? That heartbreak, it's teaching compassion. That failure, it's sharpening focus. That rejection, it's building boundaries. Most people wait for pain to pass. The Stoic steps into it and asks, what is this here to teach me? Because pain is information. It shows you where you're attached, where you've been blind, where you need to grow. And when you stop resisting pain and start listening to it, you move from victim to sculptor. You carve wisdom from wounds. You carve direction from disappointment. Think about the strongest people you know. Are they untouched by pain? No. They've walked through hell and came out real. They're not harder. They're clearer. Their eyes say, I've been through things. I've lost things, but I didn't lose myself. That's resilience. Not being unscarred, but being undefinable by your scars. Let's get practical. You've been betrayed. It hurts. You can close your heart forever, or you can open it again with discernment. You failed publicly. You can hide forever, or you can try again, this time wiser. You feel lost. You can distract yourself endlessly, or sit with the discomfort until it reveals something deeper. These aren't dramatic movie scenes. They happen in your car, in your bedroom, in the quiet hours. That's where transformation is born. Not when life is easy, but when you're unsure, afraid, and still choose courage anyway. Because pain is fuel, if you let it be. Not by ignoring it, but by alchemizing it. Here's the truth. Nobody escapes pain. Not the rich, not the strong, not even the Stoics. But what makes the Stoic different is how they use it. They don't see it as punishment. They see it as preparation. So next time pain knocks you down, cry, break, feel it all. But then build something with it. Ask, who does this pain invite me to become? Because if you let it, that pain can become the very path that sets you free. Part 7. Focus on your path, not their reactions. Let's get real for a second. Whose approval are you still chasing? Sit with that, because if you're not careful, your entire life can turn into a performance. Every step, every decision, every goal, all filtered through the lens of, will they support this? Will they get it? Will they still like me? But here's the hard truth. The Stoics understood. Your path is yours, alone. And the moment you start adjusting it to fit someone else's comfort, you've already abandoned it. People will always have opinions. They'll judge you when you take a risk. They'll judge you when you play it safe. They'll judge your silence. They'll misread your tone. They'll twist your intentions. Some people will support you until your growth triggers their insecurity. Others will resist your change because it threatens who they thought you were. If your path depends on their reactions, you'll never take more than a few steps before turning back. Epictetus said it straight. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because, let's face it, deep growth rarely looks cool. It's messy, it's quiet, it's uncomfortable to watch, especially for people who aren't growing themselves. You might be misunderstood, you might be laughed at, you might even be hated for a season, but that's not your job to manage. Your job isn't to make them feel okay. It's not to convince them. It's not to carry their discomfort. It's to keep walking. Your values, your growth, your soul's alignment. That's the compass, not the clapping, not the comments. And here's the beautiful thing. When you stop seeking permission, when you stop bending to every emotional reaction, the noise doesn't stop, but it stops controlling you. You become clear. You choose your next step based on truth, not approval. Let's bring this into real life. You set a boundary with a family member. They get defensive. You leave a toxic job. Your coworkers call you crazy. You stop over-explaining yourself. Some people call you cold. So, what? They don't have to understand your healing. They don't have to agree with your growth. They weren't assigned to walk your path. You were. So choose goals that make you feel alive. Set boundaries that keep your peace. Honor your truth even if it costs you a few relationships. Because here's the deal. If you betray yourself to keep others comfortable, you don't just lose your voice, you lose your soul. And don't mistake this for arrogance. It's not about rejecting everyone. It's about protecting your authenticity. It's about becoming so grounded in who you are that even your loudest critics can't shake you. That's not ego. That's clarity. That's emotional independence. Because you can love people deeply and still not live for their approval. You can hear their feedback and still trust your vision. You can respect their opinions and still honor your own direction. That's maturity. That's inner strength. So ask yourself, if no one clapped, if no one understood, would you still walk this path? If the answer is yes, you've tapped into something rare. A life rooted in purpose, a direction defined by you, a journey you don't have to explain to anyone. That kind of life, it doesn't just lead to success, it leads to freedom. 8. You don't need applause. You need alignment. Let's land on something that cuts through the noise. You don't need to be praised. You don't need to be celebrated. You don't need the world to notice your every move. What you need, what you've always needed, is alignment. Not with everyone else, not with the algorithm, not with what's popular, but with you, with your soul. Because here's what the Stoics knew. Real strength isn't found in being seen. It's found in standing firm when no one's watching. You don't build your character through applause. You build it through silence, through effort that no one claps for, through discipline that nobody records, through integrity that doesn't trend. And here's the truth. Nobody cares as much as you think they do. That's not meant to hurt you. It's meant to free you. Because once you realize that, you stop performing. You stop editing your soul. You stop waiting to be picked. And instead, you pick yourself. You choose to rise early when it's easier to sleep in. Be kind when it would feel better to lash out. Build something meaningful even when it's invisible. Stay disciplined when it's easier to fall apart. You do it not because someone's watching, but because you're proud of the person you're becoming. And when your pride comes from that, nobody can take it from you. Not critics, not silence, not failure. So don't wait for applause. Become the reward. Live with such clarity that praise feels unnecessary, with such integrity that criticism feels irrelevant, and with such purpose that distraction feels impossible. Because at the end of the day, it's not the cheers that will sustain you. It's the alignment. It's the quiet knowing I am who I say I am. And that kind of inner peace, that's the power the world can't touch. Part 8. The world doesn't owe you recognition billed anyway. Let's settle this now. You are not here to be celebrated. You are here to become strong, to become clear, to become deeply aligned with who you were meant to be. And that journey, it's not always visible. It's not always understood. And it definitely doesn't come with a round of applause. But that's the path of inner power. It's not built through being noticed. It's built through consistency without attention. And this is the trap so many people fall into. They start doing the right thing, but only when someone's watching. They show up with excellence, but only when there's a chance of being praised. They give effort, but they expect credit. And when the credit doesn't come, they quit. But the Stoic doesn't work like that. They don't need the world to say good job. They don't wait for a stage. They don't chase a trophy. They build because it's who they are. They move because it's what they're called to do. Their identity isn't tied to results. It's tied to values. Let's be clear. There's nothing wrong with being seen. There's nothing wrong with being praised. But there's everything wrong with needing it to keep going. Because if your motivation is rented from the crowd, then your life will always be subject to their moods. And that's a shaky way to live. Imagine showing up for yourself every single day, even when the world doesn't notice, even when nobody says thank you, even when it feels like no one cares. That kind of grit, that's unshakable. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy. But it's the foundation of greatness. And here's the beauty. The moment you stop needing recognition to feel worthy, you become unstoppable. You start living for something deeper, and you realize you were never supposed to be fueled by attention. You were supposed to be fueled by alignment. So keep building, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Not because someone will clap, but because you promised yourself that you would. 9. The Stoic path is built in silence. Here's something most people don't tell you. You don't have to announce every step. In fact, some of your most powerful moves will happen in silence. No social post, no caption, no audience, just quiet decisions, made in stillness, backed by discipline, fueled by something no one else can see. That's the Stoic way. We live in a world that rewards noise. Post everything, share the hustle, broadcast the win. But real growth, it's quieter. It happens when no one's watching. It happens in the tension between who you were and who you're becoming. You start waking up earlier, not to post it, but to reclaim your time. You start saying no, not to get attention, but to protect your peace. You start showing up differently, not because the world told you to, but because your soul demanded it. This is how inner power is formed. Not through validation, not through volume, but through vision. A vision so personal that it doesn't need to be explained. And here's a hard truth. If your transformation requires applause, it's not real yet. Because real transformation is often invisible. You stop reacting. You stop defending yourself. You stop chasing everyone's understanding. And one day you wake up and realize you're finally at peace with who you are, not because the world agrees, but because you do. That's what the Stoics called freedom. 10. Being seen is not the goal, being solid is. Let's wrap this part with something deep. Being seen is not the goal, being solid is. There's a huge difference. Being seen means you're performing. You're hoping someone notices. You're adjusting based on external feedback. Being solid means you're grounded. You know your values. You walk in your truth even if no one ever acknowledges it. The world wants you chasing attention. The Stoic, they chase alignment. Because the truth is, when you're truly solid, you stop explaining. You stop proving. You stop justifying every boundary, every choice, every change. You just become. And that's when things really start to shift. People feel your energy without you saying a word. They sense your stability. They respect your silence. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because you've already impressed yourself. So let the world chase the spotlight. You build your foundation. Let others broadcast every move. You build in the shadows. Let others beg for attention. You earn your own respect. Because at the end of the day, when it's all quiet, when no one's around, when the lights are off and the applause is gone, the only thing that matters is this. Am I proud of the person I've become? If the answer is yes, then you've already won. Part 9. Be stronger than the mood around you. Let's talk about emotional independence. Because most people, if we're honest, are emotional mirrors. Someone's cold to them, they shut down. Someone praises them, they light up. Someone disrespects them, they erupt. But here's the Stoic mindset. Stop matching the energy of the room. Start becoming the anchor in the room. Emotional reactivity is not strength. It's vulnerability in disguise. You're letting other people control your inner world, like handing them the remote to your mood, your clarity, your day. And that's not peace, that's chaos. Epictetus said, any person capable of angering you becomes your master. That line stings because it's true. The more reactive you are, the more power you give away. But the Stoic, the grounded, clear-minded version of you does something different. You pause. You observe. You choose your response. Because, you can't control the external. You can control the internal. That's not weakness. That's precision. It's focus. It's emotional clarity. in a world drowning in noise. Let's make this real. Someone talks down to you. Do you snap or do you stay composed? Someone doesn't reply to your message. Do you spiral or do you keep moving? Someone gossips about you. Do you defend yourself to everyone or do you let your actions speak? The strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the calmest. They walk into any situation and they bring centered energy. Not because the room is calm, but because they are. Imagine how different your life would feel if you didn't rise and fall with every mood, every look, every opinion. Imagine how powerful you'd be if your peace wasn't up for negotiation. That's the Stoic way. 11. You are the architect of your mind. Here's something no one teaches us growing up. Your mind is your home, and you are its architect. If it's messy, chaotic, reactive, it didn't get that way by accident, and it won't change by accident either. You have to design it. You have to clean it out. You have to rebuild it brick by brick. This isn't about suppressing thoughts. It's about curating them. It's about asking every day, is this thought useful? Is this belief mine or one I inherited? Is this emotion asking for action or for awareness? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Most people don't realize they can audit their inner world. They just live in it, cluttered, anxious, overwhelmed, and think that's normal. But it's not. You don't need to live inside chaos. You can build order. You can build calm. You can build clarity. It starts with discipline, not just physical, but mental. Train your thoughts like you'd train your body. Focus when your mind wants to wander. Challenge your assumptions when they go unchecked. Replace worry with questions. Replace rumination with action. This is what it means to become a mental warrior. Not someone who never struggles, but someone who struggles consciously. You walk into your mind like you'd walk into a dojo. You're not there to be passive. You're there to sharpen, to practice, to become. And yes, it's hard. But so is living with an undisciplined mind. So is being ruled by every impulse, every mood, every fear. One builds strength, the other builds suffering. Choose strength, because once your mind becomes a place of peace, not war, everything else gets easier. You don't need perfect circumstances. You just need mental sovereignty. 12. Your character is the real currency. Let's wrap this with one final truth. Your character is the only thing that matters. Not your resume, not your follower count, not your image, but who you are when no one's watching. In the Stoic view, character is your true wealth. Not the car, not the house, not the attention. Your choices. How you treat people who can't help you. How you act when things don't go your way. How honest you are when no one's checking. That's what makes a man or woman rich in the Stoic sense. Because all the money in the world won't save a hollow soul. But someone with strong character. They can lose it all and still walk tall. Because they didn't build their life on sand. They built it on principle. That's what Stoicism is about. Not just controlling your reactions, but shaping your entire life around values that don't break under pressure. So the next time you're in a situation where compromise feels easier, ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be known as? Do that enough times, and your legacy writes itself. Not through fame, but through reputation with yourself. That's the Stoic definition of success. Living in a way that if someone saw every moment of your life, you'd still be proud. That's not image, that's substance. And in the end, substance is all that matters. Part 10. You're not at the mercy of the world. You're the builder of your life. Here's the truth we've been building toward through all of this. You are not powerless. You're not at the mercy of moods or praise or trends. You're not some fragile being that needs validation to survive. You are the architect of your life. You build your mind. You build your habits. You build your values. And one day, that becomes your legacy. The Stoics never promised the path would be easy. They didn't lie to you about the struggle. What they gave instead was a blueprint, not for how to avoid pain, but how to walk through it with clarity. Not for how to win the crowd, but how to stay strong when the crowd turns away. Not for how to live comfortably, but how to live honorably. And in the end, that's what this all comes down to. Will you live a life that impresses others, or a life that makes you proud? Because you can't chase both. You can't be focused on becoming your best self while constantly worrying how it looks from the outside. So stop waiting to be seen. Stop hoping someone notices. Stop adjusting yourself for temporary applause. Become the reward. Show up even when it's inconvenient. Choose discipline even when comfort is easier. Speak truth even when it costs you. Build something real, especially when no one's watching. Because that quiet effort, that invisible work, that's what will separate you. Not from others. This isn't about competition. It separates you from your former self, the version of you that needed permission, that crumbled under criticism, that waited to be chosen. You don't need to be chosen anymore. You choose yourself, and you walk your path not because it's easy, but because it's yours. No one cares, and that's your freedom. Let's say it one last time. Nobody really cares. Not about your excuses, not about your potential, not even about your story until they see results. That might sound harsh, but if you sit with it long enough, you'll realize it's the most liberating truth you could ever hear. Because now you stop waiting, you stop hoping, you stop begging, and you start building. You focus on the only thing that was ever truly yours, yourself. Your discipline, your direction, your peace. The more you step into that truth, the less you'll crave attention. You'll stop posting for approval. You'll stop performing for the algorithm. You'll stop measuring your day by who noticed. Because you'll realize, I don't need to be seen, I just need to be solid. And that shift, that's where your real life begins. So what do you do now? You live this. Not just when it's convenient. Not just when it's easy. You make this your code. Stop outsourcing your worth. Let go of the applause. Build your inner citadel. Own your vulnerability. Use your pain as fuel. Focus only on what you can control. Choose character over image, and walk your path even if no one walks with you. This is your life. Make it so deeply yours that no one else could possibly live it. And if this message gave you something to think about, don't just share it. Live it. Let your actions be the voice. Let your discipline speak louder than your feed. Let your legacy be built in silence. And above all, stay true, stay grounded, stay you. The Stoics weren't selling perfection. They were teaching freedom. And now, you've got the map. All that's left is to walk it.